Hello and welcome to the Pleasure Academy. Today we'll explore a deeply serious and essential topic: why women naturally despise men who commit sexual crimes. It's not just emotional, it's about justice, psychology, and the moral foundation of society itself. 1. Understanding sexual crimes. To understand women's reaction, we must first define what sexual crimes are. These are acts that violate consent, autonomy, and personal safety, stripping someone of control over their body. Such actions leave deep psychological scars and destroy trust in relationships and society. Women's disgust toward offenders comes from this breach of safety. It's not hatred for men as a group, but a rejection of violence and dominance. Recognizing sexual crimes as violations of human rights helps us grasp why women express anger, fear, and repulsion toward those who commit them. 2. The psychology of disgust. Disgust is one of the brain's oldest defense mechanisms. Psychologically, women react with disgust to behaviors that threaten safety or survival. Sexual crimes trigger that instinct because they involve betrayal, aggression, and loss of control. This emotional response isn't about prejudice, it's biological and protective. When women express strong aversion toward perpetrators, it reflects their brain's natural response to danger. Society should view this as an emotional alarm system that calls for justice and protection, not as irrational anger. It's nature's way of pushing communities to confront and correct harmful behavior. 3. Trust and betrayal. Trust is central to all human relationships. Women, like everyone else, rely on trust to feel emotionally and physically safe. When a man commits a sexual crime, he shatters that fundamental trust. The violation isn't only physical, it's emotional and moral. Women despise such men because they represent broken promises of safety, care, and equality. The betrayal damages their sense of security, not only individually but collectively. This deep-seated anger is society's signal that trust must never be taken lightly and that restoring safety demands accountability and education. 4. Moral outrage and justice. Women's hatred of sexual offenders reflects a larger moral outrage shared by all compassionate people. Sexual crimes attack the values that hold communities together: consent, dignity, and respect. When women express disgust, they are voicing a collective conscience demanding justice. This emotional response drives activism, legal reforms, and awareness campaigns. It's a form of moral courage that inspires change. True justice is not revenge, it's balance, ensuring that respect and safety are restored. Women's emotional resistance to sexual offenders becomes society's moral foundation against exploitation and abuse. 5. The social impact. Sexual crimes don't just harm one person, they disturb the entire social fabric. Families, workplaces, and communities lose their sense of trust. Women often live with heightened fear and anxiety, constantly adapting their behavior to avoid danger. This constant vigilance shapes daily life. Their disgust toward perpetrators is both personal and social, a refusal to let fear become normal. It's society's collective way of defending human dignity. The emotional rejection of such crimes is the first step toward collective healing and rebuilding a world where everyone feels secure. 6. Culture and responsibility. Cultural values influence how sexual crimes are perceived and punished. In some societies, silence and shame still protect offenders rather than survivors. Women's anger and disgust challenge this silence. They reject traditions that normalize control or objectification. When women despise those who commit sexual crimes, they are demanding a cultural shift, from tolerance of abuse to zero tolerance. Education, awareness, and open dialogue help dismantle harmful norms. By speaking up, women become the voice of progress, reminding the world that respect and equality are non-negotiable parts of civilization. 7. Empathy and humanity. Empathy is what separates humans from cruelty. A man who commits sexual violence often lacks empathy, seeing others as objects, not individuals with feelings. Women despise such men because empathy is central to love, connection, and mutual respect. Sexual crimes erase empathy, turning intimacy into domination. The only way to restore humanity is by reteaching compassion and emotional intelligence. When men learn to understand boundaries and feelings, relationships become healthier and safer. Women's rejection of empathy-lacking behavior is a call to rebuild humanity's emotional core. 8. Education and awareness. Education is the strongest tool against sexual violence. Teaching consent, respect, and body autonomy from an early age can prevent countless crimes. Boys must learn that no means no, and that true strength lies in self-control and empathy. Girls must feel empowered to speak up and know their rights. Women despise offenders not because of gender but because ignorance and entitlement breed harm. When education replaces silence, awareness replaces fear. A well-informed generation can finally break the cycle of violence and create a society where respect becomes instinctive. 9. Media and influence. The media plays a huge role in shaping public opinion. Unfortunately, many films, songs, and shows romanticize harassment or treat it as humor. Women find this deeply offensive because it trivializes trauma. They despise not only the criminals but also the culture that enables them. Responsible media can become a powerful teacher, portraying consent, equality, and accountability with honesty. Positive representation changes how society thinks and behaves. Every ethical story told on screen becomes a step toward awareness, empathy, and justice for victims of sexual crimes. 10. Legal systems and accountability. Justice delayed is justice denied. When legal systems fail to protect survivors, women's anger intensifies. They despise sexual offenders even more when they see them escape punishment. Transparent investigations, fair trials, and survivor-centered laws are essential for trust. Women's outrage fuels demand for reforms, for stricter laws, faster trials, and better victim support. Accountability sends a message that sexual violence will not be tolerated. It restores faith in institutions and gives survivors strength to rebuild. Law is not just a rule, it's society's moral backbone against abuse. 11. Men as allies. Not all men commit sexual crimes, and many actively fight against them. Women respect and support men who speak up, challenge sexist behavior, and promote consent education. These men become allies in creating change. Women's disgust toward offenders isn't an attack on masculinity, it's a rejection of toxic masculinity. True strength lies in empathy, respect, and protection. When men and women unite to challenge sexual violence, society transforms. Equality grows from cooperation, not competition. Together, both genders can redefine power, not as control but as mutual respect. 12. Healing and empowerment. For survivors, healing takes time. Emotional scars often last longer than physical wounds. When society supports survivors and condemns offenders, recovery becomes possible. Women's collective disgust toward sexual criminals becomes a form of solidarity, a message that says, "We stand with you." Empowerment through therapy, education, and self-expression helps victims reclaim control. Each act of support breaks silence and shame. Healing isn't just personal, it's social. When survivors rise stronger, they inspire others to speak and create a future free from fear and violence. 13. The role of society. Every individual has a role in preventing sexual crimes. Parents, teachers, leaders, and peers all shape behavior. Women's rejection of sexual offenders should remind everyone that silence equals complicity. We must challenge victim blaming, teach respect, and hold institutions accountable. Creating safe spaces, supporting survivors, and spreading awareness are practical steps we all can take. Society evolves when empathy outweighs indifference. When women's outrage turns into education and advocacy, it transforms from emotion into action, the most powerful tool for change. Responsibility belongs to everyone. 14. A safer future. Imagine a world where respect and consent are universal, where women never fear walking alone, and men grow up understanding emotional intelligence as strength. This future begins with us. Women despise men who commit sexual crimes because those actions threaten this dream. But through awareness, empathy, and justice, we can restore hope. Changing mindset starts at home and expands to the world. Let's raise voices, support victims, and educate every heart. Together, we can end sexual violence and build a future defined by compassion and equality. In conclusion, women's disgust towards sexual offenders isn't rooted in hatred. It's rooted in humanity's need for justice, safety, and empathy. It's a moral instinct that defends dignity and equality. By understanding, educating, and standing united, we can stop sexual crimes before they start. Real change happens when awareness meets action and compassion replaces silence. Every voice raised against abuse brings humanity one step closer to peace. Thank you for watching the Pleasure Academy. If this message inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's continue spreading awareness and empathy, because true pleasure and progress begin only where respect and consent are valued by all.